time for First and 45. Coach Fitz Hill identified social determinants contributing to the homicide epidemic of males before the age of 45. For the next hour, into the game with the coach, Pastor Fitz Hill, and yours truly, Bishop Fred Harris. It's First and 45, 99.5 FM and all your social media platforms.
Good evening and welcome to First and 45 with Coach Fitz Hill. Coach, you've been out working hard today in the sun.
Yeah, a little sleepy.
Little sleepy.
Yeah,
Like yard work.
Yeah.
Well, he had a crew out there at the college. They were transforming.
I tell you, it was something. The Every Arkansan Recovery team. But what's so interesting though, is I'm actually looking forward to having an opportunity to speak about this in 2 weeks. Sometimes, and when you guys know as pastors, when your time's up, sometimes how it's that you look forward to it, but it stresses you because you have to make sure everything's right. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you just can't walk. You want to be prepared, and that preparation all week. That's why people understand, like when you're preparing for something, if you're trying to do it God's way, you just can't walk up in there and just throw it up there.
Mm-hmm.
You have to. It's like coaching. I mean, you want to have a good game plan,
right?
But I've already got excited about my time up to bat here in a couple of weeks, and because of today, what I witnessed with Blake and the Every Arkansan team of men, which really started on Sunday with the graduation.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you pull that into it and see these men rebuilding their lives and understanding what can take place by those first 1,000 days and first 10 years, and how looking at those older men, how they're looking back at their lives and seeing, how they can become better men.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our goal of First and 45 is really, is to look, if we impact the first 10 years, continue with the second 10, then we don't have to rehabilitate after 20.
Exactly.
All right. And even though we're doing that, and maybe the baton that we're passing to those gentlemen, that's what inspires me, because, they had lunch there, and it was just so happy. I was so happy to see them in the dining hall eating, and enjoying themselves. And then over on the other side, we had Upward Bound, which it made me look at that this morning. So, okay, now that's what we're trying to Upward Bound is, that's a summer program for kids who were trying to direct and guide during the summer months, get pre-college education. But today was just really gratifying to me to see how God is working in the lives of those men and how they were so excited to be serving on the campus of Arkansas Baptist College. And I shared with them about the history of the former slaves starting the institution in 1884 because they had been denied opportunities, and they came together to build a better future for themselves, to empower the community. So it was a great history lesson, and let them know why there's a purpose that God had called me there. And then for them to have an opportunity to serve and give back and make our campus look brand new. They washed windows. They trimmed hedges. They cut grass. They weed eat it. It was like, I can't tell you how I felt watching that teamwork making God's dream work.
And one of the things I've learned is that you were speaking the history, concerning the campus and all of that to them, but they were able to write a season of history that they were wrong in. And to be able to have that Jonah, the Jonah experience where, who was it that ran to Nineveh? Jonah, to have that Jonah experience, to be able to go back and so they were serving as men,
They're out of the belly of the whale. They're stepping back into the promise that God had made them. And that transformation is just, that's an exciting thing to see and to watch those guys, and especially like you said, watching the guys that graduated this past week, and just realizing, man, we played a part in their story.
Yeah.
And we got to experience it and walk along with them. And those I remember when moments were only 6 months ago.
Yeah. And you know what?
The transformation is taking place.
And I'm really saying to them guys what an affirmation for a man can do for a man.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely.
Because you know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely, absolutely.
That you can that father wound is to a man is a big deal now.
I mean, Heath, who graduated this week, that was the one thing that they talked about. His dad has cancer, and they did a special graduation for him a little early because they weren't sure his dad was going to survive. But his dad was there. Wow. But the whole thing was his dad, who is experiencing cancer and dying, his dying wish was to see his son sober and chasing after God. And that was what Heath was able to take this next step into. And that's just exciting to see and to get to play a part of, because it's not just the transformation of the one individual, it's a transformation of the whole family.
No question. So particularly when the man is leading as God calls him to, pastor, protect, and provide.
Yep.
I mean, that's the triangle of sustainability in building your own kingdom as God has placed us.
Absolutely.
So did you see boot camp or did you see transformation? Men who have been transformed. They were not made to do what they were doing. They were excited.
Oh, no. But see, that's what serving does. Mm-hmm. See, that's, I don't know who I was talking to the other day, but I said, if I ever got into politics and had any influence on about what could happen in the United States of America, I reinstate the draft. In fact, at Arkansas Baptist College, I've called a retired lieutenant colonel and see if I could bring the ROTC program, because the ROTC program of structure and that's why I got wake up, show up, follow up from. I mean, those type of things. That's what you learn. Mm-hmm. But to put them in a format, of talking to these young men and giving them a game plan for their lives, right. and that's not happening. And that's what we've been able to do with the staff over the last week. Just give the 6 weeks, just give people a game plan for their lives, because if you don't, then we have to give them. I spoke in prison last week. I know you're going to, I mean, and the guys listen to our show. Okay. I mean, and that's why I get invited. And then they take our first and 45 newsletter. Wow. All right, so and I sent them down there, and if you're listening, hey, I enjoyed myself down there last week, and look forward to coming back. And
he didn't bring us.
No, well, actually, the warden only let one. I asked because I was going to take Julius.
I don't know that you or I could have got past the background check.
Julius and Turtle. I wanted to take them down with me, but they said just one at this time, Coach. And then but their guys, they shared with me a story. Many have serving life, some. One young man is gonna get out. I told him come see me at Arkansas Baptist. As soon as he got out, I had, I'll try to give a plan for him. But I mean, I'm telling you, that's the restoration of life that I saw with you, with what you're doing. And I'm praying that God will unite us to continue working together, because I think America can learn a lot from people of different backgrounds working together for the greater good of our city, our state, and our nation.
Absolutely.
The more men, the better.
Yeah.
Hey, and now that we're almost 10 minutes in, Bishop, you better pray us in here before we get too far off track.
Coach came in.
I was excited about today. I'm telling you, I woke up this morning at 4:30 because I knew I had. I was excited.
Oh my God, we're just thankful for just the sharing on tonight, and what a great way to open the portals, celebrating you through the testimonies of today. So we thank you for those that are under the sound of our voice. We pray that you would bless us continually tonight as we continue to share throughout this first quarter and throughout the remainder of the show tonight. You get the glory, and we thank you for the victory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. As always, I like to start out with the why, but I'm going to run through these real quick tonight. 44 million people in the U.S. who face hunger. Arkansas is the hungriest state in America. We have the highest population of children living in single-parent households. That's the widow. It's about the orphan. Over 4,000 children living in foster care right here in Arkansas. We have 38 million Americans living in poverty. We have over half of 12 years and older have used drugs in their lifetime. Over 40,000 people die every year from overdosing. We lead the world in the total number of incarcerations. And at Every Arkansan, our vision is to see more people chasing their God-given dreams. And far too often those dreams are sidelined because of the zip code a person is born in more than anything else. So we're blessed to be able to host First and 45 with Coach Fitz Hill, because all these facts I just mentioned are contributing factors to one factor we have to change. Number one cause of death for a black male, 0 to 44, is homicide. And guys, I got a doozy for us to talk about this week, and I'm probably going to step in it. But last week, Coach, I was sitting with Curtis Sykes' children, a couple of them that run the Dark Hollow Food Pantry, and we were talking, and education is very important to that family.
Mm-hmm. Has been for a long time.
Has been for a long time. A lot of those kids are teachers. And you've kind of mentioned this before. And so I asked them a question. My question was school desegregation good or bad for our kids? And let me be clear, I'm not arguing against equality, but there's a lot of people I've spoken to who have said that while desegregation gave kids access to better buildings, better textbooks, and equality, when it came to funding, it had some unforeseen consequences. So this conversation, I was really got a lot out of. But before Brown versus the Board of Education, 1954, black children were often taught by black teachers, many of them who were the pillars of their community. It was an honor to be a teacher in their community. Despite having fewer resources, buildings that were more decrepit, these educators were deeply invested in the lives of their students. Education was personal, it was relational, it was spiritual.
Community.
It was community. In Mississippi in 1970, after desegregation, 38 black high schools were shut down. Black educators were fired en masse. By 1972, over 90% of black principals in the South lost their jobs. And what was left? Black kids were bused to unfamiliar white schools, taught by teachers who neither understood their culture nor believed in their brilliance. And in 1954, black teachers made up 35 to 50% of the education workforce in southern states. But after desegregation, over 38,000 black teachers lost their jobs. Thousands of black principals were demoted or fired. We didn't just desegregate buildings, we disintegrated these trust relationships. These kids went from a community that they were known, we always say, don't let your actions get home to mama before you do. That's what was going on here. It was a community. So in Southwest Little Rock, an area hit hard by poverty and violence, you'll find a beautiful new school. I think it was a little over $100 million investment in those facilities. And Coach, you and I have been part of conversation after conversation trying to figure out how to help the school, because those students are drowning. And we've got metal detectors, we've got laptops, but too few adults who know those kids by name, who can show up at their football games, who can knock on that front door and say, hey, notice Johnny wasn't at school today. What's going on? Johnny wasn't at school. I didn't know about that. But Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Our children don't just need smart boards. They need sharpening by people who see them, know them, and expect something from them. They don't need a teacher that drives from out of town or from across town. They need a teacher who's in their community, who knows their mama and their mama trusts, because far too often we've had so many parent-teacher meetings at our building because our parents don't trust going to the school. They trust us.
Right.
But they don't. And it's just like, man, where did we get so disconnected? In 1968, before full desegregation, black high school completion rates were rising steadily. Post-desegregation, that momentum slowed. And today, black students have a national high school graduation rate of about 80%, which is significantly less than their white counterparts. It went from on the increase
to the decrease.
In Mississippi, school district led by a local black principal with deep ties to the area. But when the district consolidated and leadership changed, literacy scores dropped by 23%. because the relationships change. This is what we're talking about. In education, in life, in our communities, education is super important, but not as important as relationships. Hey guys, this is the end of the first quarter. Coach is already wound up. He's got something to say.
We're
gonna take a
put me on sideline. Put me on the sideline.
Get another drink. We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna be right back with more First and 45 with Coach Fitz Hill. Hey guys, Drew here, and for the last 11 years, we've worked together to build the Arkansas Dream Center. And over those years, things have grown, opportunities have happened, but we've continued to focus on that mission of every Arkansan chasing their God-given dream. And for that very reason, our corporation is actually known as Every Arkansan Inc. We have two ministries that really work together in tandem to see that mission take place. We have the Arkansas Dream Center, which is going out and we're reaching out to the communities. We're in those communities with mobile trucks. We're doing after school, we're feeding, we're doing all those things you know us for doing. But in addition, we realize that the church is the answer to a lot of society's problems, and there's one on every corner. So we have City Serve that comes along the side of the church, and they provide the resources. They provide furniture and clothing and diapers and all these things to the local churches so they can reach out to their neighbors. And together, when those two start to mesh, we're going out and we're bringing the churches alongside of them, and we're equipping and we're resourcing those churches. We can truly empower the local church with the resources they need to strengthen relationships in their communities. And that's what our vision is for Every Arkansan Inc. And we're so glad you're a part of it. All right, Coach, I'm going to give you a fact, and then you're going to let me run with what you were thinking here. A 2021 Johns Hopkins study found that black students who have at least one black teacher by third grade are 13% more likely to graduate high school, 19% more likely to go to college. Not about the money, it's about the mentorship.
Look, so students rarely learn from teachers they don't like. All right, that's a study. So, just understanding and because usually with like, in many cases, don't say, you respect and like, don't say you have to like somebody to respect them.
Right.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, when I see these little social media pieces of kids going to school, looking forward to seeing the teacher, looking forward to being affirmed. That's the thing that happened. And listen, I'm a product. My mother taught. And this is a great topic because there's so many different perspectives, and not one is right or not one is wrong.
Right.
Okay. All right. What we're looking at right now to say what caused the decrease of achievement by forced integration, and there's a lot of things that we can look at to have this discussion about. My deal is I'm looking at this. Violence was not. There was no epidemic prior to 1970. The CDC reported it. I went to the conference, the gun violence conference in Wisconsin. It didn't happen. So my deal is I'm always saying that's why history is so important. I talked to Easy E, Professor Edmond today, and we were talking about Black history because he is the historian. And I was just saying how important that is to be able to teach kids about themselves rather than trying to learn from others. That's why they did the black doll and white doll and had the black kids to choose which doll that they wanted to play with. And they picked the white doll over me. All these type of psychological testing that's been taking place to say, why, in the book I was talking about black homicide, the black homicide epidemic. Why do we kill each other at the rate that we do, and many for it to reach epidemic status? Because most people say, well, white folks kill white folks, Coach, and Asians kill Asians, Hispanics kill Hispanics. I say, yes, but we're the only ethnicity that the CD has rated at gun violence as being an epidemic. So that's just like saying, well, so-and-so get the flu, so-and-so get the flu. Well, who's dying mostly from the flu? All right, so you have to understand how we're looking at this, and we're not looking at it because we don't want to own the crisis. And so why is this crisis so prevalent? Well, you're unraveling the social determinants because of the education part, because school is that factor. And Dr. Prince has watching his schools has helped me understand this, is that's the connecting piece when you don't have the home. All right. Mm-hmm. So now when you doing segregation, there was no suspension. Right? Because it didn't happen. And so I've been told that, and please, anytime you hear information that you can educate us because of your experience, I read all the time trying to find. But my uncle and my mother told me at Peak High School there was no such thing before integration, special education. Okay, so I want y'all to think about that. That did not happen. Now, you may be being in group 2, but that's y'all know what I'm talking about. You mean at the rate you could learn.
There was no IEP as an excuse for holding you back.
No question.
There was an expectation,
and you were expected, and you were going to get it. Okay, and we're going to work with you to get it. And Sunday school was the extension of school. All right, because you're gonna learn vacation Bible school. I had 3 weeks of vacation Bible school after I left school. I went to the Baptist, I went to the Methodist, and the Church of God in Christ. Then we were out 8 to 12. All right, every Friday night, the community came to hear our Bible verses that we repeat. That's standard operating procedure. That was it for until I turned 13, until I thought I was too old to go to vacation.
Absolutely. And back then, it wasn't you had that, but you also had the village.
No question.
You may have been a little slower than the other average kid, but you were gonna catch up because you had too many seeds sown throughout the community. Everywhere you went, persons were pouring into you.
No question.
Juvenile violence rises when kids lose their identity, their connection, and their accountability. That's the village. And that happens when we strip away community relationships in the name of reform or progress.
Yeah.
You look at, you and I talked about gentrification over in our neighborhood. When you take all the families that have been stable fixtures and they cash out and leave the neighborhood, and then what's being replaced is a whole nother level that's going to just push out the next generation. It changes the dynamics in the community. Deuteronomy 6:7 says, impress these commandments on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road. That's not just about religion. That's about life education, daily relational, rooted in community. Coach, Dunbar High School in Washington, D.C., the first Black public high school in America. Before integration, Dunbar was known for producing Black doctors, Black lawyers, Black leaders, even under segregation. They had worn out books, worn out building, but what they had more than anything, expectation, relationship, and love. After integration, the school lost its soul and achievement plummeted. And you talk about that. What about Arkansas right here? A 2022 state report showed that in Little Rock schools, over 50% of Black boys were suspended at least once before high school. You can't build character when you're constantly being kicked out of the classroom.
No question. That's what I'm saying. Guys, look, if I know sometimes kids have to go out, but do you have to send them back to the same environment that resulted in expansion? No, not at all. My deal is if a kid's so bad, then we need to take him to detention. It doesn't need to be a gap in my mind for a kid who needs help and who needs to be mentored. It's another thing I'm going to show you how you see these things in athletics, and most people. I was sharing this last week on Negro Baseball League. And I think if you go back and look at what happened with Jackie Robinson, and you see what happened to the Negro Baseball League, you see a demise of a very profitable sport that community came to support through Negro Baseball League. Just go back and check it out. Because now, New York's stadiums, when Black people came, because why? Of Negro Baseball League. Now, you know why the Negro Baseball League on the whole, from a sociology standpoint. I wrote this article before. It's in one of the first and 45. Because what I realized, I had one black baseball coach from my ages from 7 to 15. One. All right. Coach Gillespie. He coached me in Babe Ruth. All right. But from that time, from 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 1. All right. That never would have happened had we not integrated. But see, what happened to the demise of the black father, okay, that left the black coach. So that's why when you look at Denzel, when he played Remember the Titans and those type of deals, when they had to bring that together, is that you removed and you had to make a special intentional effort to make a guy something that he should. Now, I say this about race because a lot of times when people say, okay, and your own opinions about things, and I wrote my book and things as we know in the research I did on access to opportunities. So how can you refute having to be intentional with access when there's never been an inclusion? So you take point, and the numbers don't lie. Just like this, and together tell a story. And it's all tied in, Drew, into what you're talking about removing. Well, you take Coach Eddie Robinson and how many players he put in the NFL, okay, before integration. All right, you went to Grambling, okay? The study says that almost 90% of Coach Robinson players graduate. All right, so that was the leadership, that was the relationship piece. Now I want to get back to this Jackie Robinson because they had the whole cultural community. That's the HBCUs. You take the Negro Baseball League. Well, who was teaching Jackie Robinson? Who was teaching all Satchel Paige? Who was doing that? Black coaches. Okay. So now you're talking about the demise of the community. When you took Jackie Robinson out of baseball, okay, why didn't the Major Baseball League take 4 all-black teams and bring them in together and support the teams and add them to the Major League? But what they did, they took 1. Well, now you got to start thinking about the psychology of, okay, so you just took 1. So what happened that the total league disintegrated? Okay, well, everybody then left ours, and see, this is a psychosis that we see of this sometimes. They left our league and think, well, I want to play over there. Well, what happened, the whole financial base of the Negro Baseball League left because that was just like a HBCU classic when those communities come together. So now, not only did you have the desegregation that took place to hurt the opportunity for Major League Black Negro baseball players, the whole economic base of the community evaporated. Wow. And so those are things you have to see that when you go back and understand the complexity of forced integration and how it broke down communities.
Yeah. And I mean, you look at Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way they should go, and even when they're old, they won't depart from it. I mean, that key word is train. That's about relationship, consistency. It's about investment. I mean, the truth is money alone cannot fix trauma.
No, not at all.
I mean, you've spoken a lot about mental health counseling. I, too, am a proponent of counseling. But one thing I've learned in my relationships with counselors, the relationship means way more than the hourly rate they charge or the building that they're in.
Trust.
If there's not trust, you won't gain anything from it.
That's exactly right.
And it's not about what side of town they're on, about how much they charge, about what they drive, all that. It's a trust matter. It's a relational matter. It's about that connection. And without that, and you can't get through the trauma. You can't work this. And I want to kind of wrap up this first half. There's a teacher. Her name was Mrs. Turner in Pine Bluff. She taught for 40 years. She bought the kids lunches when they didn't have money. She visited their homes. She even paid for caps and gowns for a lot of her students. Every year, her students still gather at her home for reunions because of the difference one teacher made in their life. One teacher that they had an identity with. And that's that train a child up.
Yep.
That's that even when they're old, they're not going to depart from it.
Amen.
And that's the power of one identifiable role model that's not only in their school, but it's in their community, in their lives, going to their church, being engaged with their families. That's the difference that relationship can bring, way more than all the money, all the buildings, all the systems. Those things help, but it's the relationship that changes lives. Hey, this is Drew. This is First and 45 with Coach Fitz Hill. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with the second half.
As a former football coach, knowing the engagement that takes place on the football field, the basketball courts, the track, baseball, outside of extracurricular activity, META is the best academic curriculum I've seen for the oftentimes socially challenged student. And glad to have a pilot program going here now with Hamilton Learning Academy, as well as juvenile detention facility, to inspire, grow hope to a population of kids who sometimes don't believe that in the United States that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is for them. And so this opportunity allows them to see that, to feel that, and to engage in that, and to leave here thinking that I can do something that maybe they didn't think they could do prior to enrolling in the META 24 program.
All right, who's the CFO? Yeah. Come on up. Give the CFO a round of applause. All right, what's the marketing promotion team?
My name is Shania, and I make this pillow. It's a baby pillow for babies. It can be for a boy or for a girl. It's saying, be what you want to be. I really want to make a side hustle of this and give pillows to the hospital so you don't get good rest. So soft pillows like this.
Richard, I want to 3D print some stuff that will help us in the world. I would love to print 3 houses to help architects build real houses, because there's a lot of people in the world that homeless right now, and I feel like if I'm able to print 3D houses, I feel like architects can make more houses faster.
And we're back with First and 45 with Coach Fitz Hill, and thank you, Pastor Drew. A great first half. And the coach, but you said it. I heard you say it. Numbers don't lie. You don't really tell a story. We got these numbers when it comes down to negatives. We got the numbers when it comes down to the social determinants. We also have the numbers that when you do the right thing, when you point person in the right direction, that's some good numbers. No question. And and what we have to do, and what I'm really, our history, Black history, is really defining to you the game plan to execute. And all you have to do is go back and wonder, why was it 1865 to 1895 that African Americans taught themselves, decreased their literacy rate by 50% with no help anybody? The community came together and said, we're going to educate. For 400 years, we were denied the opportunity to read. All right? We're going to work to help to improve the literacy rate in our communities and the moral standard that we had in the neighborhood at the time.
So now when you go back and we're talking about the social determinants, and I go back to my 44 factors of the 44 social determinants that contributing to the Black male homicide epidemic, being the number one cause of death for Black males age 1 to 44. In the second, in one of those 11, I call it educational demise. All right, what did Drew talk about? Number one, and these fluctuate as I do studies. Mandated school integration and busing. I said that's number one on the educational piece to looking at. Secondly, illiteracy effects. Okay, because we know if a kid can't read, it's going to be hard for a kid to lead himself, and we see it on and on and on. That's why I say even in the juvenile detention facilities, I call them boarding schools. All right, because that's what they are. Okay, because see, anytime that you don't have a high school diploma, okay, we're going to make sure you get that. But my deal is kids that dropped out, they're not doing anything. And so my whole deal is you can't let a child not go to school and then sentence them to prison and make them go to school. So I'm saying, now how backwards is that? You know what I'm saying? So if school is so important, all right, why,
Let's take care of that on the front end.
On the front end, why is he not
happens.
here? Yeah, and that's what took place. Can you imagine in the families in 1920s and 30s, you supposed to be going to school, you leaving home, and even grandma ain't, my dad ain't gonna have that. But where you at? Don't call, but having the opportunity to learn to read. Then you just mentioned it. I mean, it's just amazing when you started. I just pulled this out. All right. Mandated school integration and busing, illiteracy effects. Number 3, relationship with the teachers. That is right there. Mm-hmm. All right. Number 4, identifiable role models as teachers. All of this just took, when this happened, I told Dr. Johnny Key one day, I said, you can mandate laws when I was on the state board, but you can't mandate love. Mm-hmm. You can't make somebody love a kid. Now you can pass all the laws we want to, but until you see that child, like when I see Turtle, I think of justice, in a situation. When I see a young black, I think of my son. So and how do I want my son treated? What do I want to do for him? I see that when I see my grandsons. Okay, how's that going to be when I'm talking to their father? I'm not trying to be their friends, and because sometimes I'll tell his uncle, I say, you need to talk to him right there because he don't want to talk. He don't want to talk to me because I know how I know me. I'm old school, Then it says, number 5, outdated education curriculums. Well, that's why we talk about if it ain't meta now, we probably don't want to talk about it unless you can show us something that's going to work with. Number 6, you just said it, lower educational expectations. There it is right there. Number 7, non-relational discipline practices. I'm just reading everything that you say about on these.
Well, I mean, on that one, I mean, the thing is, and I know there's a lot of people that want to argue about, man, you got to keep control in the classroom. You got to. We saw a reduction in violence in our classrooms at our after-school program when we went to all-you-can-eat food. When kids' stomachs were full, we fixed a whole heck of a lot of issues.
I bet it's on the list.
There's a lot of things that, man, when you ask a kid what's wrong, and you've got a relationship, all of a sudden you can remedy that discipline problem.
Yep.
And now there's some kids, what they need to do is they need to go out and run around in the field.
Yeah.
And the fact is that's just part of it.
Like the kid said on that when we did that, he said, get our energy out. You know, on that deal, he said we come over there, we get our energy out. But no, non-relational discipline practices can't what I always say, rules without relationship equals rebellion. Okay. And so it's hard to discipline somebody if they don't think you care about them. So what do we have to lose? All right. So you have to have that relationship to understand that fatherly love that we talks about. Then number 8, suspension and expulsion effects. Number 1, you got, hey, non-relationship, you don't see that person as yourself. Hey, get out of here. You go home.
Yep.
Wait a minute. Why am I sending him home? Okay. So now you got those. What really puzzles me about that is that you suspend a kid, send him back to the trauma. He's out of school for 3 or 5 days, not reading, not getting any instruction, but then you bring him back and then you want to test him
and want to catch up.
And want to catch up. I mean, and he's all
catch up. I want you to get back into the swing of things.
That's exactly right. After you,
no, I mean,
I don't get it.
My dad always said when he had employees, he goes, the number one day that you get the people that no show for work are the day after a holiday.
Yeah.
The more you get out of your rhythm, the more you get out of it, the easier it is to fall into a new rhythm, which is out of school. And that's why I really am a proponent of year-round schools.
Yeah.
Because we see so much of our kids' education decline in those summer months.
Yeah.
Because they're out of school. Well, what we're talking about is more out of school.
Right.
I mean,
you're already not,
you're only in class 180 days out of the year.
Right.
And now we're going to say, oh, you're suspended just once a quarter for 3 days. Well, you just missed 10% of your year.
No question. And then you test it at the end.
Yep.
And then you want to know why, if you have a high suspension rate, why your test scores are not good. Well, you tested people for information they missed. And it just doesn't make good sense. Then it says next, what usually happens from suspension and expulsion effects, you have dropouts. And then that time, if you're dropped out, okay, that means you're not going to be able to access funds to be able to get certified, the Pell Grant, all the federal funds, because you have to complete high school to get it. So then what happens? According to the data, if you drop out, you have a black male has 70% chance of being incarcerated before he's 35 years old if he does not complete high school. All right. Now I just want to just let that marinate for a minute. Okay. If you do not finish high school, the study tracking data says that 70% of black males who do not graduate high school will end up incarcerated before the age of 35. So that's 7 out of 10. So now, and we see that. All right.
7 out of 10. That'd be 70%.
70%. So if you don't graduate high school, we're telling you right now. So that's the most important thing that we can do to change this trend, because the high school diploma is the factor, which I'm going to talk about, the Buffalo Soldier Creed, which in recruiting to is how you pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If you don't have a high school diploma, not what we're saying, you can still make it, but the odds are stacked against you right now. And that's what we're trying to say. So you're 30%, you can make it and you can have that. But what we're saying is that we're going to pay for you to be incarcerated. And what I'm trying to say, let's go back to the prevention, intervention, and diversion method. And how can we take this small percentage of the population? It's not that many people. Okay. That's what I'm trying to say. That's why I'm excited about what we're getting ready to try to do to be transformational in our community for this population. But we cannot continue doing what we're doing and think that we're going to improve the situation. That was just a homicide this morning, 10:54.
Yeah. I was just looking at that during the break, which
and then another one the other day. I mean, so we're picking up.
Well, just so you know, we've had this is the littlerock.gov website. We've had 25 homicides this year, and this time last year we only had 18.
Yeah,
so we're up 40% this year over last year. Now, granted, that 25 is in line with our 5-year average. But when people tell you it's gotten better, the numbers don't lie.
Right.
It isn't better.
Right. And my point is that when and let's applaud Pine Bluff for what they've been able to do there, because
they're trying something revolutionary.
Right. And I'm saying, and the GIB and the things that I know that we've heard here and that we've had the meetings for with Paul Chapman and those type of things that we're trying to see. But we have to try something different if we want different outcomes. And that's what we're, hopefully that we'll be able to be involved with. And then taking the population of, I met with Ms. Trina Miles today, Director of Adult Education, and looking at the non-traditional methods of workforce development for dropouts and trying to refigure those into the strategic vision of Arkansas Baptist College and finding ways to reach out and touch these individuals who have been disengaged in a workforce type of development model for employment, because if they're not being invested in, they will make us invest in them in another way. All right. And for that reason, we are having to continue to expand our detention facilities. Hey, it's time for a break. Hey, we're rocking and rolling up here. Hey, it's 1st and 45 with appreciate y'all being here with us tonight. It's always good to be here Tuesday night. Continue to share with your friends and our conversations. And I'm going to ask these guys here before we come back. I'm going to ask you, do you remember your first 6 teachers in 6th grade? Drew, you remember your teachers? We're talking about relationships. I want to see, I'm going to give them a pop quiz when they come back. I'm going to see what they know. We talk about relationships. Relational equity is so important. We'll be right back for the fourth quarter.
Black men have so many different problems, so many different issues. Homicide rate, high incarceration rate, fatherless homes. What is America going to do about it?
What are we going to do about it? Yeah, what are we going to do about it? When I say we, I'm talking to black men. I'm asking us, what are we going to do about issues that negatively impact black men and boys to a greater degree than other demographics? Everybody knows about the homicide epidemic in this country regarding black men and boys. While comprising only 6% of the nation's population, will account for 50% of the nation's homicide victims. So what are we going to do about it? Here's another disturbing reality. While making up only 6% of the nation's population, we're about 40% of the nation's prison population. In fact, 1 in 3 black males are projected to go to jail in their lifetime. Again, I ask, what are we going to do about it? Collectively, black men have the means to solve these problems. We just don't have the mind to do so. And means without the mind is meaningless, brother. It doesn't mean a thing.
So, Coach, you were in Stuttgart last week, and not here with us. And, but you did an amazing job.
You've taught him well. So, but how was things in Stuttgart?
Man, I was just telling you, I'm so impressed. Mitzi, you know, she had been up here with the cancer project a couple of years ago. Right. Well, you know, they'd have several homicides, and so she always calls and said, well, you know, no, hey, these things are going on. You know, we really need to have things to do for our kids. So what they did, they were very intentional. I want to applaud Stuttgart, Arkansas. And I was, what I did at 11 o'clock, I spoke at Grady at the prison there. And then I left there and drove on to Stuttgart. And I just had the evening. Coach Wilson and Coach Bailey joined me. And they have a boxing workout facility room in the community center. And it just really triggered my brain. And to realize, and I met with their coach and a young lady, she's following me on social media. We've been communicating. And, you know, I want to start a boxing program now because of how I was, you know, and I'm going to share the pictures and stuff. But the kids come there and they get their energy out, and then the kids go and travel and box. And so, look, part of the Buffalo Soldiers Covenant, that when I'm talking to kids, I have 3 non-negotiables. And I said, listen, I'm going to give you, I got 3 non-negotiables I want you to consider to come to Arkansas Baptist College. If you can't adhere to these 3 non-negotiables, you're free to leave after I after I tell you what these 3 are. They are no guns, no knives, no drugs. All right. If you can, and I tell the principal and the counselor, if I send them back to you, it's going to be for those 3 things right there. That's it. I said, now, if they want to fight, I'm strongly considering starting the boxing team, and we go 3 rounds for 3 minutes, and then we're going to make you hug. All right. It was old school the way we used to do. We're going to let you get your energy out. Right. But I am my brother's keeper, not my brother's killer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's how we're going to approach this deal, and we're going to do this together. And then it's back to the other piece. I said, okay, do you know what else our young men need? Okay, they need to wake up, show up, and follow up every day. So no guns, no knives, no drugs. All right, yes, sir. I'm with you. All right, we're going to the next 3. Will you wake up, show up, and follow up? I can't help you if your alarm go off, you go to sleep and turn over. And then no, that don't work. If you don't want to wake up, show them follow up, stay here. Okay? Because already you said you're not gonna have guns, knives, and drugs. Good, I can work with you. Now, but if you don't show up in class, Professor E and all that, we can't reach you. Well, will you do that? Even when yes, sir. Okay, that's good. I say that's 6. Now I'm gonna give you 3. Okay. I'm gonna give you fatherly love. Okay. all the soul food cuisine and chicken and catfish and everything that you want, all you can eat with the bed. All right. I said, do you realize how many people trying to break into the United States of America to get this opportunity? You born with it. You got it. All right. And then I'm going to give you education with godly expectation to graduation. I said, that's what our staff have to give to you. That's 9. I said, all right, baby. Let's go. Are you still with me? You want to go? I said, okay, you know why I'm going to do that? I said, because God has promised you life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's the 12. That's it. And I say, you in? Yeah. Then we just started signing them up. Man, I said right there on the spot admission. You in? We don't have an admission fee. We don't have a dorm fee. I just need to know you want to come. And that's how you do, Bishop, when you say just come.
What you do speaks louder than what you say. So when you can do it there in real time. Let's go. Like you said, don't wait. Just come on. Hey, I'm like, hey, we ain't no price, but it's like the price, right? Come on down. Right. You know, come on. And I'm telling you, with the mothers and the people around the community, the deal is, if we don't fill college rooms, we fill prison cells. Okay. And it's so important that you understand. And I said this before, and it's so important to realize what has happened. And I'm even more inspired by what we're doing now, because I said this a few weeks ago. And if you heard it, I want you to hear it again. And I want you to share it. If you're not, you've heard it for the first time. In a book called Why Are So Many Black Men in Prison? It said in 1980, only 143 black males were in jails or in prison, and 463,700 were in colleges and universities. Why is it, as we look at the turn of the century, 2 decades later, that what social determinants were responsible for 800,000 black males being sentenced to serving time in jails and prison, compared to the approximately 600,000 enrolled in college? So as you look and see why that is taking place, and what social determinants reverse that trend of progress, because see, what most people don't realize is that well, that's always been the case, but they're wrong, because in one research journal, it showed that in 1980 to 1985, black males ages 18 to 24 enrollment in college outpaced that of their white peers. So here we go again to what we're saying. Now I want y'all to think about that. All right. Because in 1980 to 1985, per capita, black men outpaced white peers for going to college. All right. So now we got to look at these. What is taking place? That's what we have to go back. Why are we losing rather than continue to do the same thing? And so now that's why the social determinants were created, that leads to this. See, it's not just, oh, he shot them, somebody killed. No. That happened long time ago. Rarely will a person wake up and just shoot somebody, because there is so much going on. You mentioned being hungry. Okay. Well, Fred, you mentioned that's in environmental determinants. Okay. Now, and those, then I'm just going to mention it because I'm going to talk about those next week, because that's the educational demise, which Pastor Drew was talking about earlier, which we mentioned. But then you also have the environmental determinants that look at, number one, foster care. All right. Well, what happens in foster care? What contributes to foster care? The breakdown of the family. Okay. Then all these things have to take place. All right. Then we find the statistics that said in foster care, if you were born in foster care, was almost a 40-50% chance that your child will be born in foster care. All of these factors continue to perpetuate themselves, that we must break, that we have to understand what's going on. Another environmental determinant, it calls non-relational policing. Okay. And so when you look, oftentimes, because you don't have a relationship, okay, being right or wrong, that's not what we're saying, but there is an approach of fear that things take place in the communities that you don't know, unlike those things that happen
in segregation that you knew many times the police that was in your community.
Right.
I knew Mr. Joe Middleton, who lived in our community at Arkadelphia. He was the police, and then the sheriff was Mr. Sam Horton. Now, I still know their names today.
I mean, I will tell you, growing up, I played soccer with Rusty, and his dad was Judge Jack Roberts. And if I got in trouble, get pulled over or whatever, you went before Judge Roberts, and now he chewed my butt out.
Right.
But I will tell you,
Drew was a judge, had to go for the judge. Go ahead, Drew. I didn't know.
But I never had a ticket. It was those relationships in that stuff. And I mean, I think you're talking about this. And I mean, Coach, you've mentioned the black males enrolled in college numbers from Howard.
Yeah, 19%, the lowest it's been.
They graduated 22% in May, but the class is 19%, which tells you it's continuing to drop. Yeah. And I mean, we've got young black men that are no longer engaged and interested in the pursuit of whatever it is.
Life, liberty, and pursuit of, that's what I'm saying for the
majority. Where are the future police officers that are men of color? Where are the future doctors that are men of color? Where are the educators? Because if they're not going to be educated, it's going to continue to spiral downhill.
No question.
And our young black men's identifiable role models are just getting thinner and thinner and thinner.
Yeah, because we're not changing what we're doing, and that's what we're done by education. We can't look and say, okay, well, that's that. So and so happened. No, we have to be transformed. Before we go, we got 2 minutes left, and I was talking about.
I got it.
Yeah, take my sixth grade, Miss Duke, Miss Terry, Miss Jones, Miss Jackson. Miss Wells was my first grade, and Miss Duke was my 5th grade. Okay, then Miss Fletcher. I know. I'm telling you.
Kindergarten was Bray. 1st grade was Mullins. 3rd grade was Mallet. 4th grade was Pettis, and then it was Miss Miller and Miss Sutterfield were my 5th and 6th grade.
Miss Gibson, Miss Gordon, Miss Duke, Miss Duke as well, Miss Lindsay, and Miss.
Yeah, no.
No me.
I did not have my first male teacher.
I didn't have my first male to the 7th grade. I had 2 black men who taught me math and science. Mr. Ed Hunter and Mr. Rosebud Henry. All in the community. That's why I go back to that thing and having those identifiable role models. Hey, thank you for being with us tonight. First 45 Coach Fitz. We'll be back next Tuesday night. If there's something you want to talk about, facts you want to bring up, DM us and we'll make sure that we try to get the information for you. But until then, God bless. We close our door.
We thank you for tonight. We pray for our city. We pray for more community. We thank you for